The toppling and capture of Nicolas Maduro by US forces has sent shockwaves across the globe, marking an end to an era and the unpredictable beginning of another. Yet, the Venezuelan crisis cannot be seen as a purely regional affair. Maduro's fall has sounded the alarm bells, forcing every major global player from Brasilia to Tehran, Moscow to Beijing to rethink their geopolitical alignments in a world where old rules no longer apply. This is no longer a regional crisis, but the forceful return of the Monroe Doctrine, backed by a level of military force that few expected to see again. But what can explain Washington's rationale? And what could Trump's capture of Maduro mean next? Understand the strategy beyond the headlines. Support our independent geopolitical analysis by subscribing and liking the video. Know what comes next. The fall of Maduro marked the first time the United States has launched overt military strikes against a South American government openly aimed at regime change. While historical precedents like the 1989 invasion of Panama do exist, the Venezuelan case is fundamentally different because Venezuela is a much larger, politically influential nation holding the world's largest proven oil reserves. For regional heavyweights like Brazil and Colombia, the Panama intervention felt remote or confined to a small Central American nation entangled with US canal interests. But the strikes on Caracas feel much closer to home. Behind closed doors, military strategists and policymakers across the entire political spectrum find these developments deeply unsettling, as they represent a new level of interventionism that ignores traditional boundaries of international law. Maduro's overthrow is expected to accelerate intense internal debates within South American nations regarding how to reduce their strategic dependence on the United States. And while these shifts may not result in immediate policy changes, they will certainly shape the long-term regional thinking regarding defense and autonomy. Within Venezuela itself, Maduro's fall has created an immediate power vacuum where several key figures are now vying for control. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez and the hardline figures of Diosdado Cabello and Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez represent what is left of the regime. And it is not yet clear how a Marco Rubio-led administration will directly govern from Caracas, given that the Chavista governance structure is still in place. But surprisingly, President Trump has distanced himself from installing opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, suggesting that Washington might prioritize immediate stability over a rapid but failed democratic transition that risks entangling the US in a protracted conflict. This means that the post-Maduro trajectory may look vastly different from the democratic hopes of many Venezuelans. For Washington's rivals, Venezuela has long served as a vital piece on a much larger geopolitical chessboard, and its sudden fall is a direct challenge to the influence of Iran, China, and Russia in the Western Hemisphere. The US military intervention is interpreted not just as an effort to seize oil or combat illicit trade networks, but as a calculated strategic move to reassert total US dominance over its hemisphere. Beyond ideological victory, the United States seeks to secure its long-term access to Venezuela's unmatched oil reserves and critical rare earth minerals, effectively preventing its global rivals from dominating these vital strategic resources. So by toppling Maduro, Washington is testing the modern limits of the Monroe Doctrine against its primary global competitors. This action signals that the United States is willing to accept the long-term risks of regional destabilization if the short-term geopolitical incentive to expel rivals from Latin America is high enough. For Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing, the loss of a reliable partner in Caracas means the loss of a strategic foothold that allowed them to project power and influence right on Washington's doorstep. But beyond the economic losses for the US rivals, the military nature of the overthrow serves as a stark warning about the risks of building deep security and economic partnerships with governments that Washington deems as a threat to their national interests. The use of legal pretexts to create a framework for overt military action suggests a new, more aggressive playbook that US antagonists must now account for in their own foreign policies. This US intervention effectively dismantles the shield that Maduro provided for extra-regional actors to operate in the hemisphere. For Iran, the fall of a key ideological and economic ally in the Americas complicates its effort to bypass international sanctions and expand its reach beyond the Middle East. And even before the move against Maduro, Washington had signaled its intentions to strike Iran again by issuing stark warnings to Tehran amid ongoing domestic unrest, suggesting that Iran could be the next target in this aggressive new phase of American foreign policy. Ultimately, the fall of Maduro forces a recalibration of the global balance of power. The US has demonstrated a renewed willingness to use its military might to eliminate the presence of its adversaries in what it considers its own backyard, regardless of the potential for prolonged regional friction. The capture of Maduro marks a decisive turning point in modern history, signaling a bold and aggressive reassertion of US influence that many thought was a relic of the past. As Venezuela enters an uncertain transition, the ripple effects will be felt for decades to come. Whether this move brings lasting stability or triggers a new era of regional defiance remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the rules of the geopolitical game in the Western Hemisphere have been written overnight. This, it's just geopolitics. Will this intervention bring order or more regional chaos? Let us know in the comments below. Share this report to your colleagues and consider liking and subscribing to support our independent analysis. Thanks for watching and see you next time.